Welcome to Evolve. We are showcasing leaders and their take and their approach to workforce innovation. I am super excited to have Jim with me here today. And Jim, can you take a second to introduce yourself and Tusk Development?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jim Genstein, and along with my partner Andy Scher, we, spearhead Tusk Development in Western Pennsylvania, mostly office space and some industrial space, and happy to share my thoughts.
No, I appreciate it. Can obviously, we're coming out, at least I see that we're coming out of the pandemic. I'm seeing kind of the bright side of the other side of what that looks like. How has it affected you? I mean, you actually have a lot of holdings in the Pittsburgh area. How has it affected you and how has it affected, are you hearing things from your tenants?
Well, we're hearing less from our tenants now than obviously in the beginning, which I'm sure is true of most landlords. I think the biggest impact to us has been people and process. Um, so And when I say people, I'm talking about our own workforce, our property managers, our guys in the field, to some degree, even our subcontractors. Everybody's faced a myriad of issues, both I think real and perceived, but perception is reality. So I think trying to keep those people engaged and doing what we need to do as essential workers to keep these buildings operating so that the people who want to come back to them someday have something to come back to that's not, beat into the ground. Um, and I think, what we're doing and how we do it as a process um, has changed a lot in terms of trying to meet what the new safety ideas are.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, have you had to adapt kind of anything since the pandemic? Have you had to make any changes or pivots?
Yeah. So, I mean, down to the most basic accounting function of creating new GL lines to track COVID-19 expenditures by building so that, we know, where our money's going and how we're doing it to, buying fogging machines to, in the early days, fog a tenant's area should they have someone who tested positive. Um, we've installed in many of our buildings so far UV blasting, trying to think of the right word, light rays into the HVAC systems. So, in addition to CDC recommended higher air filtration and R13 filters, MERV 13 filters, we've installed UV devices. Now, that's not going to make the place safe, but it's going to make it safer. And hopefully it helps with the perception of, being indoors and what that means and why it's not as good as being outdoors. But unfortunately, I'm not in the business where I can rent you outdoor office space.
I totally understand. I'm hearing, at least from my side, representing the tenant always, I'm hearing that tenants are starting to trickle back into their workspace, their professional workspace. And some are waiting for larger firms like PNC. They're just following the guidelines of others. What are you seeing from your tenants?
We're absolutely seeing people coming back. It's not 100%. I hesitate to put a number on it. A lot of our buildings are medical in nature, so they opened up earlier in the process. Um, and they have, every tenant has a different array of new protocols that they're adhering to, both for guests who are coming to their space, as well as their employees, as do we in our own office space. Um, but I definitely feel like people are coming back, and knock wood, I hope that we're turning the corner, as you mentioned.
Yeah, we work with both office and industrial tenants, and the one thing that we've heard for the last 6 months, every single one of, well, the majority of our office tenants are basically asking, what about outdoor space? How do we narrow down properties that have a place that we can go to get outside? And so what we're seeing is that demand coming from their staff, their employees. Can you just give us, maybe a brief overview of some of your properties that might accommodate such a need like that?
Well, I'd love to. Thank you. Uh, obviously, our two buildings on the North Shore, the Wounded Warrior Building and the Northern Light Tower, both have rooftop patios, as well as both indoor and outdoor large parking fields. Um, and so that's a real benefit. We have golf nets on the roof nets on the roof patios of both of those. So not just going outside and using the Wi-Fi and having a conference outside. We also have a kitchen actually on the outside of the Wounded Warrior patio.
Wow.
So we have some of those things already. Some of our suburban buildings all have picnic tables and outdoor areas. And we're trying to do that as much as possible. We are seeing people taking more use of it than in the past, and I think that's great. But at the same time, it's Pittsburgh, and I don't know what you're going to do in the depths of February when it's 20 degrees outside.
Work from Florida.
Exactly. Yes. Well, for those who
At
can.
least sounds good to me. But yeah, it's not that simple. Do you have any advice for business leaders right now as they prepare for what's next? We're just getting so many questions on what to do. Do I need half the space? Am I going to need more? Like, people are just asking those questions. Do you have any advice?
Um, so I think that and your question took a different turn than what I expected. Um, my advice to tenants always is that you should plan for 20% more space than what you think you need today. Um, and that's never been an advice that was related to the pandemic. That was advice related to you need more storage than you think you're going to cram into, and you need more circulation space than what you think, and you need the ability to add a cube over here and an office over there, so that when you're tied up in a 5 or a 10-year lease, you're building in the ability to grow your company, because you're not going to be able to grow the space in most cases. But I think in the pandemic world, if I had advice for anybody, whether that's a tenant or otherwise, I think you have to listen to your customers, or in my case, my tenants, and I think you have to appeal to the lowest common denominator of what they're telling you. So I mean, it's easy for all of us in the last year to have a different opinion about what safety means and what measures we should take. Um, and every single person has a different opinion on how we should proceed with that. But I think that if you're in a position like I am, where you have a general population area, like an office building, you really have to try to, as much as best as you can, walk the line and prepare that building or that customer interaction to what might be the lowest perception of fear, so that you're doing everything you can to meet the lowest common denominator of the person who's most fearful, within a reasonable boundary of what makes sense. Because others will perceive that as you being extra cautious, and the person who's at that lowest boundary will perceive that as thankful. Um, that's the advice that I have.
I love it. It's very similar to the advice that we've been providing to the tenants as well. At the end of the day, although they may be comfortable, you have to make everybody comfortable, whatever that means. So it'll be interesting as vaccines start coming in, and do companies open up that if you're vaccinated, you could be in the conference. It's just going to be very interesting to watch how this progresses. And I very much look forward to sitting with people without a mask on someday soon. But
And me too.
yeah, exactly. But our goal with Evolve is actually very simple. It's really to enable leaders to learn, connect, and grow together. And I really appreciate you coming on today and talking to us, especially from a landlord perspective, and what you're hearing and what you're seeing, and really, really value your input. And thank you, Jim, for your time.
Not at all. I appreciate you inviting me, and you stay safe, Kim.
Yeah, thank you. And I still have my mask, by the way. I was gonna wear it when we started today, and I was giggling. It was like he's gonna think I'm crazy.
No, not at all. But at the same time, I feel much more personable with neither of us wearing one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's pretty funny. Well, awesome. Well, we're gonna head over to the tour pretty soon, so I'm excited to see the building, and I'm hoping to bring you a tenant.
Well, we certainly hope so as well. Take care and stay
Thanks,
safe.
Jim. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Kim. Bye now.